Hi guys, Harrison and I'm back out with a brand new video for you, and welcome to Ask Dre, the first in a returning series on this channel where I just sit down with... my speaker just fell over, great. Hey guys, and welcome to Ask Dre here on the Motorsport101 channel. I'm your host, Andre Harrison, and thanks to everybody who sent in questions, as said on our last video blogs. Who knows, I may do more of these more often. If you wanted to leave questions for another Ask Dre video, feel free to pop them in the comments down below. Now, this isn't going to be the smoothest operation in the world, because some people didn't tag the hashtag on Twitter, but they sent me stuff anyway, so I've got to dig through my Twitter likes as well as some YouTube comments. But hopefully it'll still work out okay. So thanks to everybody who sent in questions, and yeah, I'm going to have a dig around and let's see some of the best ones. Now, I'm not going to answer questions about sports I don't really watch regularly or stuff I don't really know about. So forgive me on that one if some of you sent me a question which I just don't know anything about. Like somebody asked me a question about EuroLeague basketball. I just don't watch European basketball. I only watch the NBA. So I just do struggle a little bit on little things like that. So please forgive me if I don't talk about it. I'm only going to say it if I know it comes up with a decent answer. You know, I'm sure you guys understand. Right, so let's get into it. Len Morrison sent me a tweet saying, "Who do you think will win Sports Personality of the Year? Brackets, it would better be Chris Froome." On paper, I completely agree with you. I think Chris Froome really should, one, be knighted, and two, win Sports Personality of the Year. It's obvious that Froome is now the guy. Like, I mean, what was it? It's his fourth Tour de France win in 5 years now, and he won the Spanish Tour as well the other day. So he's done the double this year. The problem is that I think we as a country pretend to care about cycling, like we sort of do when somebody's winning, and pardon the pun, but like Sir Bradley Wiggins was a more magnetic personality, even though by any measure Team Sky is really shady when it comes to how they deal with things like drug tests and whatnot. So I think, like, we pretend to care about cycling in the sense of, like, we love when the track cycling comes up at the Olympic Games now because we're really, really good. We're the best track cycling nation in the world now. But when it comes to the Tour de France, and when it comes to a personality contest, Chris Froome hasn't really got a personality. And people do actually judge that shit on that, which is really stupid, but that's a discussion for itself. Chris Froome should win. Like, in my opinion, Chris Froome should win. But I think Anthony Joshua will end up winning, especially if he wins his second boxing fight later this year. As a reminder, because he knocked out Vladimir Klitschko earlier this year, and people love a good British boxer. Joshua is going to be Britain's biggest sporting star in the next 2 years. Easy. So for me, I think it's going to be Anthony Joshua. I think Joshua's bookie's favourite right now, because goddamn it, it's not going to be the friggin' Brownlee brothers now, is it? So I think it will be Anthony Joshua, but I think Chris Froome should win. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. Henry Chapman asks, "What is your favourite helmet replica that you have?" Now, I know many people have noticed that if you look behind me and you look up there, is my F1 mini helmet collection. I've also got a Lewis Hamilton one over there as well from his 2015 season. But my favourite, I've already picked it out here, is this one. It's not even one that was actually, you know, made officially. It was custom painted by a guy called Brian Lee, who has done tremendous work with custom designs. This is based on Sebastian Vettel's Singapore 2012 Grand Prix. The one that had the LED lights on the top of the helmet. It was a beautiful design and very well made. I mean, LEDs were banned the race afterwards, but it's based on that, and it's a stunning design. Like, Seb breaks out the really big ones for Singapore, and they always are very, very special. So for me, this one is my favourite because it reminded me of that great 2012 race when Hamilton and Vettel were going head-to-head until Hamilton had the hydraulic failure. But for me, I think my Singapore 2012 helmet is probably my favourite on that one. Marge at Bounce Back at Billtrix on Twitter asks, "What do you think will be Sebastian Vettel's legacy in Formula 1? As I make a video in a Lewis Hamilton cap, of course. Sebastian Vettel's legacy, I think he will go down as the Alan Prost of this era, in the sense of he will be the guy that the people that know Formula One really well, I think, will absolutely love and adore and get behind. And we'll talk about how great he was, but I think to the casual fan, he'll always look like he's second best to Lewis Hamilton. Because, you know, Lewis Hamilton's the flashy one. He drives for the flashy brand. He's flashy on track. You know, he speaks out a lot more than Vettel does. He's embraced the limelight more compared to Seb, who is very private. He's a very private, personal sort of person. He's not the one that's putting himself out there on TV shows every 2 minutes and, you know, talking about... pardon me. You know, he's not the one putting himself out there like Lewis does. And, of course, when the guy is putting himself out there like Lewis does, doing all these fancy photo shoots and press tours and all that fun stuff, he's never going to have the limelight factor and the X factor, that transcendent star ability that Lewis Hamilton was. But he's one of the best racing drivers of all time. I think he's a top 5 or 6 F1 driver ever. If he wins a 5th title at Ferrari this year, he's going to go down as maybe the 2nd or 3rd. Maybe I think he'll be better than Senna, up there with Prost, Schumacher, and Fangio. If he wins a 5th title for a 2nd different team, that would be insane. Especially given it would be Ferrari's first title of any kind since 2008. That would be huge for the Ferrari. Like, he'll be building statues for him if he ever pulled that one off. Vettel is one of the greatest racing drivers to ever walk this earth, and I think he's a great guy. A little bit of an anger management problem, but I think overall, I think he's a very, very, he's an amazing driver and I think a good guy, and a bit different from the F1 landscape that we've had in previous years. But overall, just an incredible driver that will not get the full recognition that someone like Lewis Hamilton will, because Hamilton is British and super popular, and he totally embraces that press machine that Formula One often has. So, you know, that's how I look at it anyway. Just have a quick look at the rest of these questions here on Twitter. I'm digging up the hashtag up again, so bear with me here. Let's have a quick look here. Leston Reese Thomas asks, who do you think will win the F1 Championship? I think it's going to go to Lewis Hamilton. If I'm being real with you here, I think Lewis will take the title. I think Lewis just has a slightly stronger all-round car. Ferrari are great on street circuits, and they're great on tracks where their narrower wheelbase comes into play. But I think on the generic side of the calendar in general, I think Hamilton will win just enough races. Like, Hamilton's strong down the stretch. He's got a lot of tracks that he likes. I don't think Valtteri Bottas is going to take too many points off him. And I think Bottas could easily be a team player and move aside for Lewis in the later races. Like, Kimi Raikkonen will do it for Ferrari. He's already come out and said that he would. If he knows he mathematically can't win the title, he'll do everything he can to support Seb. I'm not sure if Val will do the same, because Val's still got a mathematical chance. It's a lot deeper than Kimi's in that case. But I think Hamilton will be stronger down the stretch. And I think Seb would probably need 3 or 4 more wins to really cement this. Because we all saw it last year. Like, Rosberg had enough points in hand where he could easily give up those 4 wins to Lewis at the end of the season. And I think that's what will happen again. I think Lewis is just a little bit too strong. They'll probably win the next 5 out of the last 6 to win the title, even if Seb wins today in Singapore and, you know, finds a way to put, like, maybe a 10 to 15 point lead. That's not going to be enough, unfortunately. Given how... I don't underestimate Lewis Hamilton ever. I just can't do it. It's not in me. He's just too good. So, yeah, for me, I think Lewis Hamilton's got enough in him to win the title. But I would really, really like Seb to bring it home. That would be great. Arlen asks, what are your favourite albums? See, this is the thing. I'm not a massive music guy, generally speaking. I've been into other things like media and sports more than I've ever been a music guy, so to speak. But some of my favourite albums, I really like the Childish Gambino album, Awaken My Love, that came out late last year. Early this year, I should say, and that was really, really great. I love that album. I'm going to be generic here and say, like, Kanye West's Late Registration album and College Dropout. Those two albums are fantastic. I was a big fan of Jay-Z's The Blueprint when it came out. I'm a massive Jamiroquai fan as well, so I think Dynamite was my favourite Jamiroquai album. Travelling Without Moving's a pretty solid one as well. Like, those two are my favourite albums from Jamiroquai as well. Big JK fan. Massive JK fan. So that's one that's probably in there as a favourite group. But I will listen to any. I'm very versatile when it comes to music. I'll listen to anything that sounds cool. I really do. I'm not one of those guys that gets picky about what's his favorite music is. Like, I love anything that sounds cool. So yeah, that's my take on that. Jason Poland asks your predictions for the UEFA Champions League. It's hard for me to go any other way than Real Madrid retaining for the third straight year. Real Madrid has got like a legitimate footballing dynasty underneath them right now. Like, they might have the best squad of 23 football players ever assembled in terms of a club level. They have Sergio Ramos, who will go down as an all-time great centre-back. Rafael Varane is the future of that defence. Marcelo is probably the world's best left-back. You've got, you know, the midfield is fucking stacked. You have Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, Casemiro had a breakout season last year. Isco is not even like an every-game starter for them. They had to get rid of James Rodriguez, who is a fantastic midfielder and was the 2014 World Cup MVP, and they got rid of him to Bayern Munich. And of course, they have Ronaldo, who's probably the best scorer the game has ever seen. It kind of helps. I've not even mentioned they've got Karim Benzema and Gareth Bale yet, and those are two world-class players in their own right. It is an incredible squad of 23 players, and they're the bookies' favourites to win the Champions League for a reason. I think they have a better squad than Barcelona do. I think a lot of people are going to sleep on Bayern Munich this year, but Bayern are a very, very strong team. And if you want an outside bet, I'm not completely buying PSG, even with Neymar, but that front three of Neymar, Cavani and Mbappe is going to be very tasty if they can all click on the same level. That PSG team is very good, and it's definitely going to be one to look out for. As a sleeper pick, keep an eye on for Man City as well. I think Man City, they made the semi-finals 2 years ago, and if Aguero and Gabriel Jesus can click on that level, look out. They're going to be a very, very strong team. So keep half an eye out for that. Going on to YouTube now for more questions. Me, AJ, I think that's James Pinker on Twitter. If that's you, James, then let me know in the comments. Who's winning the championship in Sonoma on Sunday? I am recording this before the IndyCar season finale. I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon. It's 12:30 as we speak, so this is before IndyCar season finale in Sonoma. I have watched the qualifying. I know that Joseph Newgarden is starting from pole. His first pole position of the season, ironically enough. Really pulled out a clutch last lap to take pole off of Will Power. I think Newgarden will finish the job, especially given that Scott Dixon is starting in 6th. I know it was a Penske 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top. I think Dixon's going to have one too many Penskes to go through to make this happen. I think Newgarden will finish the job with a win, maybe a second if Will Power gets lucky on cautions, something like that. I think Sonoma will go pretty clean, and I think Newgarden will lead from the front, because Sonoma is a tricky place to pass as well. So I think Newgarden will lead from the front, and I think he will go on to win and take his 5th win of the year and cement the title. I would like to see Dixon win it as well, because Dixon's a great ambassador for the sport, but as a young American, young star, Joseph Newgarden winning the title would be amazing for IndyCar. I mean, how about this for a future? A Joseph Newgarden, Alex Rossi title battle. Chevrolet versus Honda. There's one to keep an eye on for the future, because I think Alex Rossi is borderline elite now in his own right. I really do. Like, Rossi's fantastic. He's taken to IndyCar like a duck to water, so he's going to be one to look out for in the future. But I think Joseph Newgarden will win the title and finish the job. Uzama on YouTube asks, if you could tie down a 3-year contract each for one MotoGP, one IndyCar and one F1 seat, who would you give them to and in which team? So if I had to lock down the 3 best talents in what teams, what would they be? MotoGP, Marc Marquez and a Honda. I think Marc Marquez is the best bike rider on the planet. I think he's already one of the best bike riders in history. I think he's an incredible talent. You tie him down on that Honda because even if the bike is shit, Marquez will still win races on it because he's just that fucking good. IndyCar, I already think they've got the perfect scenario with Joseph Newgarden at Penske. I think that was like the dark forces aligner. Joseph Newgarden is like the Death Star on like Darth Vader's fleet. It's ridiculous because Newgarden is as good as anyone in IndyCar right now, and he's still only 26 compared to the older guys in IndyCar, which is a lot of an old guard with like a 42-year-old Helio and like Pagenaud's 33, Power's like 34, I think. So, like, to have a very young Newgarden be your franchise guy for the next, let alone 3 years, maybe a decade, that would be incredible to have. So, to have that tied down would be great. F1, I would say either Sebastian Vettel for Ferrari or Daniel Ricciardo for Mercedes for 3 years would be pretty sick. I think, like, I'm not dissing Lewis Hamilton, it's an age thing. Like, you get more value, I think, in Sebastian Vettel being 30 compared to Lewis Hamilton, who's 32 in January. Like, they're pretty much on the same, but Vettel being a year and a half younger makes it swing, and you've got more of Vettel's prime, I think, if you ask me, compared to Lewis Hamilton. Daniel Ricciardo, again, same deal, fantastic driver. He's even younger, he's 28, compared to Vettel being 30. So I think you've got more of those prime years tied down. So I think that's where the value is. Jared asks, what is your opinion on V8 Supercars? I believe that it is the best motorsport ever. If you had Johnson on this video channel, like, he would probably wax lyrical for the next 10 minutes and tell me about the time that Jamie Whincup ran out of fuel on the mountain. He's told me that story about 5 times. It's ridiculous. I've only watched a couple of V8 Supercar races. They've been pretty fun, for what it's worth. The issue for me, I think, will be time differences. I'm not going to be keen on getting up at awkward times to watch races. Maybe if they had a YouTube service. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable enough on V8 Supercars to really talk about it and comment. But from what I've seen of it, I think it's been pretty cool. I'll say that much. Mr. Motorhead asks, 5 years from now in F1, what do you want to see realistically speaking? I want to see... realistically speaking, just Liberty Media being a bit more fingers on the pulse with social media and tapping into young fans. They get in there. Their YouTube channel has greatly improved in the last 18 months. And social media-wise and branding-wise, they've already made a difference. And I think they're going about this the right way. Making it more obvious for fans to watch guys on track, for example. Having better graphics, a better timing tower. And just having much better social media. Like, the sport is always going to be a political dumpster fire, and I don't expect that to improve anytime soon. I would love to see a greater emphasis on balance of not balance of performance, but balance of money in Formula 1, where smaller teams get more pay. But realistically, I can't expect that to happen anytime soon, because the bigger teams are not going to sacrifice enough to make that happen. And that's a shame, but it is what it is. Like, there's no getting around that, and Formula 1 is not going to change that way of thinking anytime soon, unfortunately. Okay. Andrew Bannister already asked me about the F1 Championship. David De Gea. Will David De Gea be a United player next season? Yes. I think Real Madrid's given up that hope, and I think football rumour guys like to make a lot of the same suggestions every year. I mean, being a United fan, like, how many times have you had the Wesley Sneijder to United rumour come up over the years? That one came up all the time, or that United are going to sign Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. I remember that back in the days when I was watching, like, teletext rumours come up on those old school TVs. God, I'm really showing my age here. I'm only 25 and I'm talking about friggin' teletext and CFAX. Good God. But overall, I do think that David De Gea will stick around. He's a franchise goalkeeper. He loves United, and I don't think Real Madrid are going to keep... Like, Real Madrid, I think they're going to focus more on trying to get Gianluigi Donnarumma from AC Milan at some point, as opposed to going for De Gea. I think they've given up on that one. They keep trying, but it's like, why would United sell a franchise goalkeeper? God bless that fax machine is what I tell you. Amir asks, what made you support Sebastian Vettel? That's a great question. Like, I was a fan of Vettel the moment he walked into F1. I was kind of, like, sporadically watching Formula 1 between 2006 and 2008 because Schumacher had just retired and Schumacher was my original guy. And, like, I was kind of looking for a new guy to support, and I didn't really have one. I didn't really... Like, I was happy when Lewis Hamilton won the title in 2008, but, like, I was never really... I thought Hamilton was kind of boring, and he was back then. He was very PR-centric, very in tune with McLaren's line of just get your head down and say generic shit. Basically, that they are the least cool brand in Formula 1, although they've gone out of their way to improve that in recent times. But I was never a big Hamilton guy from the start. So when Vettel came in, I think the first time I really got into it was when Italy 2008 happened, and when Vettel, you know, he kind of got thrust into the media's focus, and he was this really happy-go-lucky, funny German guy. Like, he was really in tune with his British culture right from the start. He was a massive fan of Little Britain and Monty Python growing up. He had a British sense of humour, and I just immediately just warmed to him as a guy. And the fact he happened to be, you know, really, really good down the road. He got me back into F1 in 2009 when Button was dominated and Button finally won his world title. I grew more and more in tune with Vettel, and he got me back into the sport. By 2010, I was back into it full time again, and it was fantastic. And, like, Vettel being that great young guy to really invest in, for me, was what made me into such a big fan. And even more so now he's at Ferrari, which has always been, like, my favourite team. And him chasing down Schumacher's legacy, I think, is very cool. And it's very easy to invest in. So that's probably the biggest reason why. And just the level of creativity, like his helmet designs as well. Like, being a creative guy, being known for something cool as a brand is really, really great. Also, all these Lewis Hamilton caps I keep wearing. Legend Slayer asked another United-based question. How do you think we'll fare in the Champions League? Who will be the highest placed English or British team, and will there be winter transfers? You greedy man, Legend Slayer 90. You very greedy man, but I will answer all three questions. I think we'll make the quarterfinals. I'd be surprised if we made it any deeper. I think we're one of the best 8 teams in the world on our day, but we're still kind of... There's a lot of unproven guys who've not had a deep Champions League run yet, and that's where we could trip ourselves up. Like, remember Lukaku's not been in that scenario yet. He's not played those really, really, really big games in Europe yet. And we're going to get an elite team in the last 8 if we make it that far. I mean, like making it that far is hard. Even a quarter-final spot is hard, because you've got guys like Arsenal, for example, that have been knocked out in the second round 6 years running. Like, that shit is difficult, man. It's really fucking difficult. I said before, I think Man City will be the best English team in there. I think City's got a bit more firepower, and they've got a bit more squad depth as well compared to us, and I think that's what could make the difference in a longer season when the playoffs start in March. That could come into play quite nicely. Winter transfers, well, getting Zlatan back will be like having a winter transfer, so that will be big. I'm not sure if Mourinho will go big in January. I think he's going to wait for the end of the summer, and I think he'll drop the 100 million to trigger Antoine Griezmann's release clause, and I think that'll be the next real big franchise number 10 guy that Mourinho will bring in, and that could be fireworks. Kevin Walsh asks, is Martial a Manchester United player after next summer? Probably. I hope so. I don't think Martial is quite on that level yet where a team's going to throw 100 million to go get him. Like, I think we kind of, like, set a new era of investing heavily in youth players coming out of Monaco. Like, once we got Martial a year later, like, Monaco got gutted for guys like Bernardo Silva, Bakayoko, Benjamin Mendy. Obviously Mbappe going to PSG for like 150 mil. So I think that you know, I think we'll keep him. I don't think anyone's really going to go after a left winger. I think a lot of elite teams have already got their left wing guy, like Raheem Sterling or Marco Reus, or obviously Ronaldo at Real Madrid. Yeah. Maybe Barcelona could come knocking. Maybe Barcelona could try, because they need another left-sided guy, really, unless they're going to make Dembele their new left-sided player. If they're thinking of the future, because they know Messi and Suarez aren't getting any younger. I think they're both 30 years old now, so they're in their primes right now. They've got to start thinking about the future again like that. That is an old club with a lot of established veterans in it that, you know, are going to need replacing down the road. So, you know, that's why they signed. That's why they dropped 100 million on Dembele, because they needed a winger that's going to be a franchise guy for them in the future. They're not going to play Arda Turan at left wing forever now, are they? That's why they signed Rakitic as like the long-term Iniesta replacement, etc., etc. It goes on. I mean, Barcelona basically abandoned their youth project to basically bend over backwards to get Neymar, and now he's gone. It's like, oh, that's a big asshole. But I think we'll keep Martial. I don't think anyone's going to come knocking for him. That's a big ask. I think on that one. I'm gonna have a quick look on that one. TGI321 asks, as a 49ers fan, do you think they'll improve on their 2-14 record of 2016 with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan at the helm? Maybe by 1 or 2 wins, but I think NFL-wise, I think the 49ers are doomed for the next 2 or 3 years. Like, they're better off legitimately just tanking games and trying to save up some draft picks so they can get you know, some decent players in it. Because, like, San Fran went from, like, brilliant team to dumpster fire in the space of, like, 2 years. Like, Harbaugh fell out with senior management. Kaepernick had a bad season, and then everybody turned on him before he, you know, got woke, basically. A bunch of their great players like Patrick Willis and Chris Borland retired. You know, Navarro Bowman got hurt again, has not been the same guy since he tore his Achilles. Like, that roster is terrible. Blaine Gabbert is not a starting quality quarterback in this league, but unfortunately, the NFL is kind of destroying itself with quarterback depth right now, so there's a lot of disasters in there. The offense is okay, like Shanahan is alright. Brian Hoyer is a stopgap. It's a mess, to say the least, and they're not good enough on any level to really even go 7-9. Luckily, their division is quite shit, so they could maybe sneak to 4 wins, maybe 5, but like, that's really not going to be great. But yeah, I think that'll just about do it on this one. Sorry if your question didn't get in this time. Maybe try again in the comments, and maybe it will come around next time round. I don't want the video to be too ridiculously long. It's only going to be about half an hour as it is. But thanks to everybody for all your questions. I will see you on next week's episode of Motorsport 101, not episode 104, 105 most likely now, because I'm working again next week. But thanks to everybody who watched. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you've got any other questions, leave them in the comments below. And I hope you guys enjoyed the vid. Until next time, I've been Andre Harrison, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.